Good evening, everyone. This is Henry Gambell with simpleroptions.com, and in today's free video, I wanted to follow up on some of the ideas that I had shared last week. While on one degree you might feel like, we continue to discuss these same tickers, well, I think the benefit of that is being able to really discuss them from start to finish, because it's all too easy to make a recommendation and never look at it again regardless of what happens, and I prefer to say, how did we actually step through this? I think another huge benefit of this is looking back on the things that I had to work to understand, to adapt John's strategy into what I wanted to do. Because when I started following his work, I would come in and he'd say, okay, I want to buy XYZ or whatever it may be. You come in the very next day and say, well, why is it not up 5%? Because I thought this is something we wanted to buy. I started making the case for the buy side of Home Depot kind of right in here, and it hasn't really done a whole lot. Well, were we wrong in this idea? Not as of yet. We're still holding the trend very nicely, but one of the things that you can do to help decide when it is time to finally start buying these is using a shorter time frame trigger. So when you look at the current trend that we've been going through in Home Depot, it's pretty easy to agree that this most recent price action has been somewhat bearish. Inside that bearish trend, there have been bullish moves. This is where I feel a stock begins to develop a personality. It's to say that it has these 4-day rallies that typically run about $4 or $5, and then it continues on back lower. What you're looking for is something that shifts that pattern into where it can start to make better gains. Now, of course, I'm not going to try and start buying it at 138, which would be a $5 move from this low, but you can absolutely drop down into a smaller time frame and run that same type of work there. So let's look at a 15-minute chart, which tends to make a good swing trading time frame. And then what you want to start looking at is the rally that preceded the decline. In this case, it's a little tricky because it was so sharp, but from this swing low to this swing high is where I would start, and then I'd run this from 133.60. So it's going to be a level right here around 136.59 that really begins to make this trend look much better to me. In all honesty, this is where I would add to my position. Now, I go into Tuesday, of course after the 3-day weekend, with no positions in Home Depot. If it can start clearing your previous swing highs, that will be a big step in the right direction, and I will look to pick up a pilot position around there. And then when it clears that 136.59, that's when it's really going to have room to run. This particular swing I always find very important in any given trend, and I think you can see the relevance of it there. Once you clear that 136.59, then we're going to look for our 1272 extension that comes in at 140. Part of why I'm trying to show you this is because there is no reason to be buying it up here. That's where you're playing with fire, and it's a much more precarious situation. If you're working it down here, kind of scaling into it before getting a big trigger, at least you're getting into an area where if you have to take a stop, that risk is clearly defined, as opposed to buying up here and having to take all that heat. So that is what I will look with in Home Depot, and hopefully that helps in relationship to what we were following with it last week. And then the other example I was following with Visa. This one is interesting to talk about because you don't have the same type of relationship. You can see this underlying pulled back into the 21 EMA, and if I was to come back and try to look at symmetry inside this, number one, you probably wouldn't have even had any. If you did find some, it would have been on a much smaller time frame. And then when this one clears, essentially on this day, because if I don't have any symmetry, I will fall back to my 618 retracement. And when we started to clear that right in here, that was a nice confirmed buy. So these are some of the things that I will use to help confirm my original assumptions. It's also very helpful to try and time your entry if you're doing directional calls, so you don't have to sit there and wait through the theta decay. And then if you can time those entries by the clearing of your symmetry and retracements, you'll find that much more accommodating for your entries. And I hope to talk to you soon.
Hey everybody, this is John. I hope you are getting rested and relaxed for a long 3-day weekend. I want to review a couple of trades that I did this week, and we'll take a look at this indicator that I've been talking about, Ready, Fire, Aim. And I just want to this is something we've been testing for a while. I always like to forward test it on my own account before we kind of release it. This is a trade in Baidu, and you can see here there's a 30-minute chart. What I'm looking for here is that this thing can bottom against support and then take off, okay? And what's scary about these kind of trades is that you can be a buyer, but it's like catching a falling knife and it can keep on going. So what I'm looking for is confirmation that says, no, support here is holding. You can get in with a very tight risk to reward ratio and you're looking for this thing to hook higher. So in this case, we got the ready, and that's what you want to see. And then you got and then the aim, and then boom, fire. So it went in a decent size, kept 20 contracts here, and this was good for $46,000 in one day. This is one I posted it in the room. We texted it out. It was a nice little trade. And then we got this other one today. Now this one, it's a little different because it's not. You can see here that it didn't completely collapse, right? It's not that I'm looking for this to, it's falling and is support holding here or not. No, this thing had bounced and then had a little bit of a retracement. And what I was looking for is to see if there was going to be a continuation. Okay, from this point here, were we going to collapse and this thing was going to roll over and die, or was this going to initiate another buy signal? And again, I got the same confirmation that I did in Baidu. It's like, no, this thing is ready to go. It is ready to hook higher. Again, and this is another one we texted out and posted it in the room, and this one turned into a big winner. And you can see here that this turned into a trade that over $150,000 in profits in just 3 hours, meaning that there was holding it overnight, but we got in about 1:30 Central and then got out about 9:30 Central, give or take. So 2.5, 3 hours. And this is the kind of stuff that I get excited about, where you get some powerful moves, and whether it's the whole concept here is that whether it's falling steadily and you want to see if it's going to hold support, or if it's rallied and you want to see if it's going to be able to take off, from this next level. And these are environments where it's moving so fast that squeezes don't have time to formulate, right? So anyway, I am super, super excited to be sharing this with you. I am going to be doing a free webinar on Tuesday, and that'll be September 6th at 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock East Coast time. If you can't attend, it will be recorded, but I encourage you to attend this one live because we've got a couple of special treats for you. But I'm going to be talking about this indicator in full, talking about how I use it, why I like it so much, how to combine it with some other indicators, and then the primary type of trading that I do with it. And you'll see some of the things that I'll be talking through here, a 3-step process to identify major market turning points in any market. And by the way, with this signal, I'll trade options, futures, stocks, forex. It's based on the underlying, okay? How to find low risk, high probability trades. Why it's finally possible to catch tops and bottoms in real time on almost any chart. Now, a big part of this is understanding, it's no secret that I'm not a big fan of this market, but I'm not willing to short it. But I am looking for specific topping signals that have not confirmed yet, okay? And I am actually using this in hurry up and wait mode to see if we're going to top. But in the meantime, I'm looking to use this indicator to continue catching moves higher on stocks that are retracing intraday. Why these bold and beautiful reversal trades can be safer than what I would call comfortable trades. This is an important one. And I've noticed this especially in August, where a lot of the comfortable trades just kind of trade sideways and lose theta decay. Okay, not good if you're long options. How to avoid getting suckered into the costly traps most traders fall into in this regard. Because again, the toughest thing here is, do you catch that falling knife? What kind of trigger do you need to see that support is going to hold? Or if it's rallying, that you're not stepping in front of a freight train. Okay, and those are all super important things to know. Anyway, this will be a lot of fun. Lots of, I think, very useful data, new stuff. All you got to do is come here, put in your name and your email address. You'll get the information, and we will see you Tuesday at 7 o'clock Central and kick this sucker off. And this is just in time, because when we get back from Labor Day, I'm looking for the volatility of these markets to increase, and precise entries and exits are going to be tantamount to how successful we're going to be for the rest of this year. And these are the kind of tools that can help us do that. All right, you guys have a good one, and we'll see you at the next update.